Good Packer Nation Friday morning, everybody. I am here. I am a little late. I had some friends who I wanted to wait till they got out. They're headed to the Bristol Motor Speedway for the NASCAR races today, and I wanted to make sure they got underway and make sure they didn't need anything before I jumped on here and talked to you guys. But it is Friday. Congratulations, you've made it practically to another weekend. And we, not only do we have a game to talk about, but we have a big Packers win to talk about. And I say big Packers win. I know it's preseason, but so it's kind of natural just to call it a big Packer win. But this win did have some meaning to me. I think it shows the depth that this Packers team has put together by building through the draft. And so it was a good performance last night. But today is Friday. So this is your show today. It's time for Packer Nation Roll Call. And if you have something you want to talk about, we'll talk about it right now. It's going to be a free-flowing show today. And on Fridays, sometimes I go long. Craig is here. DM is back. Armando is here. Ned, how you doing, man? Ricky, Sean, Andrea Woods is back. Good morning to you, Andrea. DM says, good game last night. And yes, it was. It was a good game from start to finish. I would like to talk to you about this was a good game even before the game began. Yes, because we saw Jordy Nelson out on the field at warmups. Never been happier to see a guy go out on the field and just play warm up. He didn't set foot on the field during the game, which is just fine with me. But give me a thumbs up or a heart if you're happy to see Jordy Nelson out there warming up. Craig says he's worried about Kenny Clark, and I am actually with you in terms of he has not showed what I was hoping he would show. At the same time, I'm not worried in the sense that once we get Pennell back, I see Kenny Clark as a guy who's going to come on at the end of the season. I don't see him as a guy that we're going to be able to rely upon from the get-go. So we'll see what happens. But yes, I am with you. I've been watching him, and I have seen his pad level is too high. He is getting his arms out. He does have good hands. He is trying to maintain his gap, but he is not right now handling double teams the way you expect, especially a 0-1 technique in a 3-4 defense to be able to do. So Jared we're talking about Crockett. We're talking about Lacey. Listen, let me sum it up, okay, for everybody right now. How about a running game, all told? Crockett, Burks, Lacey, who totaled in 21 carries, almost 100 yards, 97 yards, guys. Let's talk about the running game right now, because this is what I said for my prediction. I said we're going to come out and pound the rock, and we're going to start daring people to stop the run, and that is going to open up our passing game, folks. How about a short yardage touchdown run by Eddie Lacy? How about that beautiful run by Crockett for a touchdown? I think, all right, let's do this. Let's do a little short poll. Scott wants to talk about Matthews, Peppers, and the PED. I don't know if we're going to get to that because we got a game to talk about, but we'll see maybe a little bit later on. Here's what I want to ask. I got a Packer Nation poll for y'all right now, so you got your ears on? Here we go. So it's thumbs up or angry face. Thumbs up is yes, angry face is no. Do you think last night that John Crockett made a statement that he can play for James Starks' second running back position on this team? I thought, James Starks had some yardage, but I thought James Starks looked off balance. I think he looks slow right now. And I say that because I have nothing against James Starks. I was very happy that we signed him. I've said that in the past. But John Crockett made a statement last night. Eddie Lacy gave him props in an interview. He said Crockett came off the field and said, I was trying to get my 2.7 on. And Eddie said, well, you're not big enough to do that. But so we have a lot of people that agree. And I can see if you disagree, I can understand too, because what you've got in Starks is you've got a veteran presence. You've got a guy who knows the ropes. But here's what I like about Crockett. He is playing well. But more than that, the guy injects energy into our offense. And I love, the kid is a spark plug. You can tell he's happy to be out there. And you could see the first thing he mentioned when The Rock interviewed him after this game. What's the first thing he says? He says, my line was blocking me up great. And it was, Larry McCarron had to basically prompt him to talk about his own performance. He said, thanks for giving props to everybody else, but how do you feel about how you did? And you saw this big smile come over John Crockett's face. And I love this kid. Young guy coming out of a small school, but he was a winner there, and he is playing like a winner now. I think that John Crockett is making a case. And of course, Mike McCarthy after the game had a lot of good things to say about Crockett too. But this was his second game playing well. If he can continue to stack these successes, this is my question. Now, I'm going to be really interested to see how the reps play out in our next preseason game. And we're going to be talking a lot about that, because if you see John Crockett start getting some more reps in the third preseason game, that means that they are looking at him in that position. So I think we're starting to see some things shape up right now. And of course, this third preseason game is the one where you play most of your starters. We'll see. Aaron Rodgers is going to get minimal action, but it will be interesting. So yeah, Bryce is saying Starks is Mr. Reliable option. He's not flashy, but he gets the job done. And I agree with that. And like I said, I was happy to see him. I think Crockett is getting out there. Crockett had, when you add Crockett's receiving out of the backfield, had over 50 yards last night. This is very good. Sean is saying Burks. Burks had a good showing too. All of our running backs had a good showing. I think Crockett is separating himself definitely from Burks. I think he is pushing James Starks right now. I think that's going to do nothing but make our team better. So, yeah, fantastic. Armando, Rodgers' next game to start with the 49ers, we will probably see Aaron Rodgers on the field for the first time, because in the fourth preseason game, again, we won't see him at all. I said it this time around, we're not going to see him. We didn't see him. What I was hoping for was to see a lot more Brett Hundley. Brett Hundley looked good when he was out on the field. Had a beautiful pass to Ty Montgomery, I think, and then got his ankle rolled up on and had to exit the game early. My key to the game was how much did Brett Hundley play. That actually turned out to be wrong, because it didn't matter how much Brett Hundley played. We could have put Randall Cobb in as quarterback, and we would have beat the Raiders last night. We just took them to task. They got fortunate with the blocked punt to get a touchdown in the end. But, yeah. And frankly, I do need to take some time for this, because we did have Prediction Wednesday yesterday. I went through the 600 comments, and if you got the prediction right, or if you're very close and you're listening right now, get on and let me know, because I could not find the prediction. My prediction, I'm going to swell the chest a little bit this morning, beat my chest, pump it up a little bit. I predicted the Packers score 20 points. I predicted it'd be 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. I was right on that. What I was wrong about was I expected us to have one on the ground, and I expected Lacey in the first series to get a touchdown. That's where I thought our focus was going to be. I was right. I thought our second one would be through the air, and then Crockett catches that ball and basically runs it in. And so he did blow that part of it, but I couldn't be happier to see our running game like this. Guess what this offense is going to do? It is starting to shape up to be the kind of offense that we expected it to be, and the one that I said from before this season began, that this offense is going to be off the charts this year. And of course, it's just the preseason game. We can't base too much on that. But this is a Raiders team that kept their starters in the entire first half. So this was no slouch. What we were hoping, and yesterday we talked about it, was to see our young players, even though we've expected them to struggle a bit at times, to see them flash. Well, our young players did not just flash. They dominated, and that is good to see. Very good to see. So what else do you guys want to talk about? I haven't been paying enough attention. We got Tyson is here. Craig is here. Hey, Craig is giving me props for the prediction. I think me, if you're not giving somebody else. I appreciate that, man. This time it worked out well. And yeah, but the one thing that did surprise me is how flat the Raiders played the entire game. So I was surprised at that. I thought that they would get another touchdown in there. I did think their touchdowns would come late. And so I was right about that. But who would have predicted that it would have come in the way that it did with a blocked punt? Phil is saying that he thought that Banjo played well. That guy is making a case. He had a nice interview after too. Dale is asking if Hundley's okay. Well, here's what we know from Coach McCarthy, and he actually did. He didn't He didn't deflect the question, but he couldn't give us anything medically, of course. But what he did say, two things. Number one, yes, it is the same ankle that he had before, so that's a bit of a bummer. But he did say it was not as severe an injury as it was the time before. So Hundley, I think in terms of the preseason, he is, I'm expecting that we're going to have to wait. You know, that third preseason game, you get more starters in there, but that would be another opportunity for a second half or a third or a fourth quarter of Brett Hundley. I think that is in jeopardy at this point. On the other hand, I expect that in that fourth preseason game, which again is really kind of that's just a shakeout, the players on the bubble kind of a game. I think he'll be back for that. So it's rough. I was when he limped off the field, were you like me? It was like, oh man, here is his big, and he was playing fantastic ball, had great command of the huddle. His footwork looked good, and then he had to come off. So Ryan is asking about Callahan or Williams. Guys, give me a thumbs up if you. I got the impression that the Packers showed Williams the door last night. I really did. I know there's more opportunities to come. But Williams is not going to get a lot of playing time in our next preseason game. And then the fourth preseason game is one of these, it's just take a look at who's left kind of a game. Andy, are you with me? If that was you, man, good to see you. I felt like the Packers showed Williams the door last night, to be honest. When Brett Hundley came off, I thought, and again, I was hoping that we would see more of Williams this time around, which is another reason I thought the Raiders, that our score wouldn't be over 20. But they put Callahan out on the field and they left him there. And so when Williams went out, by the time Williams went out, pretty much it was game over. It was garbage time almost. And I got this feeling that the Packers showed Williams the door. I know they wouldn't say that they did that, but that's just the feeling that I got. So I look at Williams and he's got limited chances now. And the reps that he's going to get at this point, I feel, are going to be very meaningless at this point. Just looking at, you got two more preseason games. You got one where you want to figure out, make sure the starters are on the same page. Continuity is built. They're going to want, if they can get Brett Hundley back, they're going to want to get a good look at him because they haven't had a good look at him this preseason. It looked really, I was really a little bit sad for Williams because I thought he had earned, he did some good things. He didn't have a fantastic game, but I thought he had enough to earn the opportunity to sort of flip-flop reps with Callahan for a game and give him more reps and just see what he could do with him. But it didn't happen, and I did get the feeling that the Packers showed Williams the door. Let's see what else. Aram is here. Shane is here. And also, if you let me know where you're at, that's fine, too. Shane is saying that Callahan is more polished, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, Callahan is playing great ball, I thought, for a young player. Again, I think his presence in the pocket is really pretty good for his limited reps right now. He's playing good ball. Mike, if Hundley gets hurt again, sign Flynn. Oh, man. I hope not. Amy is here. Good-looking team this year. Go Packers. Here's what we're learning about this Packers team, okay? The same can be said about the Steelers, who were defeated by the Eagles. Steelers got beat by the Eagles, but that's because they rested our starters. Packers rest their starters because we're confident we're a deep team and we dominate. That is a big difference. Many teams, you look at the teams out there, look at the Raiders. They're having to play their starters to see what kind of continuity they can build, what places they want their offensive line to be, who's going to be where in their defensive backfield. Packers don't run into that. We're out there trading in young players, swapping guys out. Our starters are doing great and then coming out. Some of our starters aren't playing at all. This Packers team, I said this at the beginning of the show, the one thing this game showed about our Packers team right now is the depth that we have. Anybody got a heart for Blake Martinez out there last night? I thought Martinez looked good. And I thought Martinez looked good. Not just he had 2 tackles and 2 assists in his time on the field. But how about that open field punt coverage tackle, shoestring tackle, and he gets up, and the one thing that Martinez needs to be coached on a little bit is when you're on national TV, you got to celebrate a little bit longer before you go back to get your mouthpiece that came out when you were yelling. I thought he played a good game. He looked more naturally. And honestly, I will compare him to Barrington. I thought Barrington was going to have his shot to really show what he could do. I thought Barrington looked like a player who hadn't played in a very long time, which is no slight against Barrington because that's the fact of the matter. I thought Barrington looked solid. He looked gap sound. He looked like he had his mind about him, but he didn't tackle through tackles. It looked to me like he was playing a little conservative. So that was a little bit unexpected. I thought Barrington would go out after all this time not being able to play and really kind of make a statement that, hey, I am a thumper, but I am also a veteran, and I'm going to show that I know what's going on. And when you know what's going on, you can just play without having to think, and you can tackle through tackles. I really didn't see that. But again, limited reps, so no conclusions drawn. But I did like what I saw out of Blake Martinez. Again, he looks to me to be like a spark plug, sort of like a John Crockett on the defensive side. Yes, he's going to make some mistakes. Atreyu says, what an awesome name, dude. Martinez did great job making those open field tackles. Yes, and those are difficult to do. That is the kind of situation where a rookie can really look bad. And Martinez made a case for himself. I thought that was fantastic. I'm really excited for the guy. Alec is asking about Randall's INT. Fantastic. And we had two of them. And we've said this in the past. If we get now, here's the domino effect. If we can shore up the middle with Martinez, maybe Kenny Clark, if he can shore up the middle, even if he's not dominant. And we can keep Clay Matthews and Julius Peppers as those bookends on the outside. That means that our pass rush will be better. If our pass rush is better, that means there will be more that quarterbacks will have to make quicker decisions. If the quarterbacks have to make quicker decisions, that means they're going to make more bad ones. If the quarterbacks make more bad decisions, that means our defensive backfield is going to get more interceptions this year. If our defensive backfield gets more interceptions this year, guess what's going to happen when our offense scores 30-plus points a game? The word that comes to mind is special. And again, you can't draw too many conclusions from the preseason because everything that's played out there is vanilla. But I'm liking what I'm seeing right now. We've got somebody mentioning Geronimo Allison. Now, I thought Trevor Davis did a good job in kick return. He was very decisive. He got north to south. But Geronimo Allison now making a case. Again, let's go back to the conversation we had a long time ago, folks, that in the wide receiver core, there are going to be fans of one of these kids that are going to be extremely disappointed when the cuts come around. There is something going on right now in our wide receiver core. We've got guys, and then you look at Jared Abbrederis, who did a serviceable job also in the special teams area. And then now, what if you're Jeff Janis and you have to watch, you're on the outside looking in right now? There is going to be cause for disappointment with a very good player, either relegated to the practice squad, who will be snapped up. Can you imagine? Let me ask you this out there. How many scouts do you think are going to be watching the rest of the Packers preseason game right now? We are raising eyebrows when you play like that. When you beat the Raiders, and the only touchdown they had was a punt block recovered in the end zone. We are going to have a lot of NFL scouts just waiting and watching because they want to see who we cannot keep at this point. And it's going to be interesting, guys. Ted Thompson always makes it interesting when roster cuts come around. But again, when we show depth like this, I think we're going to be very happy with the team that we come out with. So good stuff, folks. Good stuff. Alec, yeah, lots of scouts. There are going to be tons of them there. Okay, let's talk for a minute. It is Friday, and this isn't about the game. I know, and if I go long, sometimes we go long on Fridays because frankly, I just, I can't get enough, especially when we got a freaking game to talk about. It's awesome. And it's the weekend, folks. Feel free to heart if you're just feeling good today. But let me comment on Julius Peppers and Clay Matthews, okay? I don't have the document up right now. So what I'm going to tell you, you can take it at face value, but don't quote me on it because, again, I'm going to be saying this from memory, okay? But I did go through the information. I watched the Al Jazeera report. The Al Jazeera report Now, a lot of them, are saying, well, this is nothing more than TMZ. The Al Jazeera report was better than just a TMZ report. I will say that. If you watch it, it is a well done expose in a lot of ways. What I'm not saying when I say that is that they have good documented evidence that Clay Matthews or Julius Peppers did anything wrong. They don't. Okay? But it is a well put together report. That's no excuse to me for all the bad things that I've said about how this thing has gone down, what the NFL has done, threatening to suspend them if they don't come in and meet, et cetera, okay? But I do want to get that out there. All right? My friend Andy is here. I gave you a shout out earlier. I'm not sure if that was you or not, but good to see you, buddy. I'm looking for your friend to come on here pretty soon. The report was not a Mickey Mouse report, okay? This was a British athlete who went undercover. I thought it was really sick. This guy his past was in performance-enhancing drugs, and he had a company go bankrupt, and then he finds a way to make money again because he couldn't do it the right way the first time. Now he's going to supposedly clear the air about how it works and show the dark side. What he's really there for is to make a bunch of money. And to hurt a bunch of people is really what he's there for. That's the only reason he did it. I really was sick of that guy, to be honest. But I will say this. I mean, he was in a position to get in. Okay? So the report was significant in some ways, but not in any documented evidence kind of a way. And then you look at this. Now I'm going to forget his name. The moron who sells the dope. And he turns around and says that all of his statements that the Al Jazeera report were a lie. So now you've got a guy that has absolutely no character whatsoever. The reason that you get on there, if you're some kind of a shady supplier, and you say everything I said about the players was a lie, the reason you say that is because now you are a pariah, is what you are for NFL. He will not get no one will buy anything from him ever again. That's why you get on and say you are a liar. It's not even just to protect yourself. Hey, Jared is here, saying hi to Hector too. I think Hector's the other Australian dude, right? But here's the deal, guys. This has gotten interesting, okay? So I don't want to extend it too long, but this is interesting. And here's another reason it's interesting, okay? This is the reason that we all should keep our ears on about this. Because the way the rules go, and I'm not going to be able to call up the exact wording of this, but what the NFL is required to provide is so minimal for performance-enhancing drugs. And I've mentioned this before, and I verified it. I don't think the NFL has what they need, but it is such a gray area that I think we need to be very careful, okay? Hector is here. Good to see you. Glad to see you guys are hanging out, having a good time. So I am going to be keeping my eye on this. I do think there is cause for concern now. I'm not going to sweat it. Guys, it's out of our control, so there's no point in sweating it too much. We know that Clay Matthews he's going to have his ducks in a row. Julius Peppers going to have his ducks in a row. The fact of the matter is, this is in someone else's hands. That's been my concern from the beginning, is it's no longer in our hands. Okay, so that's what I'm going to say about that. Yes, the Al Jazeera report did have some striking things to say, did have them said by some people that were basically being interviewed undercover, didn't know it, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, the NFL's rules are extremely gray on what they need to hand out suspensions and sentences on this particular issue. Okay? All right. So at any rate, what else do you guys want to talk about today? Because let's get back to the game if you want to. Otherwise, I can head out too, because I'm going to get back to just watching the game again, I think. I've got it. You can see the corner of it out on my back. I just can't, I can't imagine this season, Ned saying, nothing will happen. I can't agree with that there's a very good possibility nothing will happen. However, looking at the rules, there is a possibility that something could happen. This is what I hate about this, is it just looks, it's so, rules should be black and white, and they should sort of follow they really should not look un-American to me. And when hearsay rules the day, and that's basically what we've got here, I think there's a big problem. And like Aaron Rodgers has called out the NFLPA. Listen, we needed to get this right. We shouldn't have given this guy this much power. We shouldn't have allowed these kind of gray areas to creep in. But this is the way you get better policies, so hopefully we will. David is here. All right. Even though many things about Manning and his wife were true, well, that's the thing. Is if you say that what was uncovered about and exposed about Manning and his wife, tons and tons of drugs going to Peyton Manning's wife in all kinds of places is what the report is. But again, it's a hearsay report. But if that hearsay report was correct, then now you have to go and find a corresponding logic, because you can't compare apples to oranges, because he says the same thing about what the difference to some extent is in what he was given. In particular, Clay Matthews, it was Percocet. Which I think the way in which he obtained it may not have been legal, but it is not a banned substance, I'm pretty sure. So again, there's a lot of gray area in this. The only thing I hate about it is that it's really out of our control, and the way that it's structured, I don't like one bit whatsoever, because it's not black and white. It doesn't require documented evidence. It doesn't require anything really sound, in my estimation. Most of what you see on the list, it needs to be sound, but not everything. I don't like it. I don't like the situation one bit whatsoever. And again, I've said, as a leader, when you're a leader like Mike McCarthy is right now, you have to prepare. When it's out of your hands, you have to prepare for the worst case scenario, period. So it affects the way that we continue through the preseason games. It affects the way the coaching staff has to handle the situation, because they do not know. The fact of the matter is, no one out there, none of you guys know. I don't know. The coaches don't know. Julius Peppers and Clay Matthews do not know what's going to happen. They're just out there going to do the best they can to try to muddle their way through this. What they do know is they get suspended if they don't talk. This is a problem, folks. This is a problem. It is right now affecting our team. I made that case yesterday, and the fact remains. Okay? All right, let's get back to the game. It's Friday, for crying out loud. Let's not talk about the bad side. Let's not talk about the dark side of sports. But I did want to answer that question. So Sean says Trevor Davis had a nice little run back. That's what I mentioned earlier. I thought Trevor Davis did a quite good job. In fact, he had better stats than Jared Abbrederis, who had more. He's done this more. I thought he looked decisive. I thought he looked fast, not super quick, but that's okay, especially on the kick returns. The punts, I think, are where you need to be more nifty, because the angles change so much for a punt. The kick return game, you get a lot more sort of foot in the ground stuff. You get a lot more. The angles aren't as severe. I liked what he did, but the thing is, then you look at what Geronimo Allison did on the field, and he had a nice catch too. So these guys are they're making it so interesting at this point. And frankly, I wouldn't want to be a coach on the Green Bay Packers right now. I wouldn't want to be Ted Thompson and have to make these final decisions. I know they don't fear this, but frankly, there's some kids out there that you're going to have to cut some people. There's a lot of guys on this team that aren't going to have a job, and a lot of them are going to get picked up by somebody else. But yeah, Trevor Davis is looking good. I've had my eye on him. And I know a lot of you guys have too. Alex says he's really good. Wanted to see him more. Yeah, and again, you don't know what's going to happen. So the third preseason game, they're going to be dialing in, building continuity with the starting offense for a little bit. But I do expect, because of what we've seen in the preseason, the Packers aren't going to have to do too much of that. So again, we'll get these guys on the field. We'll see how the reps play out. Jared is asking, how did Jared look? Had one catch, I believe, looked good in special teams. Jared Cook. Yeah, how did Jared Cook? Jared Cook had another catch for a first down. He is looking solid. The one thing I am starting to observe about Jared Cook is he needs to work on his blocking. He had some opportunities to make a difference blocking downfield. One, he just got out of position. This is going to happen. Your tight ends aren't going to necessarily be killers, but they should be good because they're big guys. That is not Cook's forte. We didn't bring him in here to block. We brought him in here to catch passes in the seam, to stretch a defense, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's doing that. So we're okay with that. But yet the guy will develop. And, when he's on, you look at the programs he came out of. When he comes to the Packers team and he sees the way that we block down field, he's going to get it. It's just a matter of time. He's going to need some time. But again, another crucial catch. The guy, he seems to be the kind of guy that's in the right place at the right time. He's a big target. He's fast. He's savvy. He's a veteran. Really, really happy to have Cook on the team right now. Now, here's my question. Where's Richard Rodgers? Here's another one. Justin Perillo didn't have a big night last night, but again, Richard Rodgers' second string spot, I think, is up for grabs. I believe it's up for grabs. Adam says his blocking is awful. Well, yeah. I'll say this much to Adam's comment. His blocking was noticeably bad. It drew your attention as to how bad it was at times. But again, there's time. The guy obviously is a player. These are we have a new tight ends coach who is, he's building these guys. He's focusing. Remember, our focus this year is on players, not plays. That's what McCarthy has said. And Ricky says Richard Rodgers isn't all that great. I'm a fan of Richard Rodgers in the sense that, I just love his attitude. The guy made a difference last year for us, not just the Detroit game, not just the Hail Mary. But I hope the video isn't freezing again. I see one comment, but we'll see. That may be on the other side, I'm hoping. All right. So everybody, I hope you have a great Friday. It's been great talking about a Packer win. Again, it's the preseason, but what we're seeing is the depth that this team is looking as if it can roll out onto the field. That's exciting. That's really encouraging for a Packer nation who we've looked at a lot of these young guys. We've seen this draft class start to develop, and I think it's going to be great. Squirewell is Waylon says Squirewell is a monster. Hey, listen, I will agree with that, except he's got to catch the ball out of the backfield, man. What was with that? There was my touchdown through the air, and I had predicted a touchdown through the air, and I could have at least, even though my score would have been wrong at that point, I could have at least got my touchdown through the air. But yeah, it's a good-looking young team out there, and great to see that we can put our young players on the field and not just see a play here, a play there where they look good. But this team is starting to look like they're solid and deep, and that's good stuff with the Packers with the season coming up. Well, I got a FedEx package coming, so I am going to sign off, guys. You have a great weekend. I'll talk to you later, and go Pack.